If you're watching this video, chances are that you're a watch enthusiast. If you're a watch enthusiast, chances are that you have heard, unless you lived under a rock, about microbrands. If you heard about microbrands, chances are that you heard about Helm watches. And since you clicked on this video, you probably totally have. And maybe you are already on the waiting list and you just want to make sure that the long waiting is actually worth it. So let's check it. Let's be real, there is a lot of microbrands offering great spec divers for around $300 nowadays. So why is there, or why there has been, such a fuss around Helm watches? Why is the waiting list so damn long? If you want to know how long, 2 years, 7 months, 22 days. Helm Watches, small American company established in 2014 with the idea of creating ultimate affordable tool diver. Their first model was introduced a year later in 2015. Since then, the watch got certain upgrades, never a major redesign. They introduced more models, out of which I still think Vanuatu looks the best. And they took you to watch world by storm. Quite often called the best diver under $500. In my last video, I mentioned that my Citizen Pro Master Eco Drive was, for me, the ultimate no-nonsense tool watch. And I stand by it. But this takes the toolishness to a whole new level. To a point where I think it's almost a nonsense for most people. Let's have a look at it. Traditionally, let's start with the packaging. For your $300 plus shipping plus import tax, you get something undoubtedly cool. The watch box on its own is nothing extra. It's not an oxygen tank. But what's inside actually matters. And it's part of the experience that sets this watch apart. Since this thing is a 300-meter ISO certified diver, you actually get a report from the certification. Now for the watch to actually get the ISO certification for the stated depth, the watch needs to be exposed and tested to 25% greater pressure than what it says on the dial. So this watch has been tested to a whopping 375 meters of depth. You get pretty cool stickers, and you get handwritten note thanking you for your purchase. Well, sort of, only the name is handwritten, the rest is pre-printed. That is actually really awesome feeling, and it kind of elevates the unboxing. You get microfiber branded cloth. Great, never enough of those. I keep losing them. The bracelet, more on that later. Nice screwdriver to adjust the bracelet. Spare really thick spring bars. And screws for the link. And of course the watch. So far so good. And let's continue with a bit of the negatives. But this time the negatives are more subjective than usual. Because I bet there is a lot of alpha macho males that actually like the bracelet that the watch comes on. I gotta say I really like it too. It is an engineer style, very well made bracelet. It feels incredibly solid. All the links are incredibly solid. The end links are incredibly solid and fit the watch head flawlessly. The screws holding the links together feel more solid than the screws holding together my Volkswagen. And the clasp is an absolute beast. I have never seen a clasp that massive before. Yeah, it's a bit old school with traditional micro adjustment holes rather than the on-the-fly adjustment, but at least there's plenty of them. So why would I complain about the bracelet? It is a massive, sharp-edged chunk of steel. I'm a big dude. I know it might not come across the camera, but you know, I work out. I got 188 centimeters and 100 kilos. For my Imperial unit squat, that's 60 to 220 pounds. You can see on my palms that I don't mind rough things. But on this bracelet, sized up for my 7-inch wrist, this watch weighs 210 grams. For a lot of people that would be a feature. A lot of people like the heft of the good quality watch, and I do too. But together with the sharp edges of the bracelet, it must be the least comfortable thing I wore in a long time. I desperately don't want to be a sissy and wear the watch on the bracelet because I really do like it. But I swapped it to the single pass NATO strap. That is actually really good quality. It's nicely made, again, feels super solid. It's got a signed buckle, for whatever reason, on the wrong side. And the NATO actually transformed the absolutely badass looking watch to a slightly less badass looking watch, but to something that you actually don't mind wearing. But I will probably swap it back. Moving on to the case, and damn, this thing is just brutal. There is nothing even remotely trying to dress this up. It's all brushed, and I wouldn't call it fine brushing. It's very obvious brushing, making it very clear that this watch means business. It is 42 millimeters in diameter, 50 millimeter from luck tip to luck tip, 13.8 millimeters thick with 22 millimeter luck width. The bracelet tapers from 22 to 20 and back to 24 on the clasp. That clasp is just beast made. The case shape as such is actually pretty traditional. Lucks are curving down, so it actually wears better. The edges are sharp, precise. The sides feel massive. Crown guards look awesome and solid. The lucks are drilled to easily swap the bracelet for something more comfortable and quickly swap it back. And then there is the crown. Almost 8 millimeter of a crown. Beautifully signed, perfectly machined crowned. It operates Seiko NH35 inside. I'm not gonna pretend that anyone watching this video doesn't know what Seiko NH35 is and how it works. How many joules it got, that it's 3 Hz, that it's got hacking and hand winding, and that it's super reliable movement. So let me just say that my unit runs -2 seconds a day. I normally prefer when my watches run faster rather than slower, but -2, that's pretty damn good in my books. The action of the crown is great. Just great. It's super easy to get a grip on, threading feels solid and smooth, the thread is immediately picked up when you're trying to screw it down. There is nothing to complain even if I wanted to. The caseback is also a bit of a beast. It feels that the caseback on its own is actually heavier than my G-Shock. It's beautifully finished with a company logo, model name, ISO certification and some specs around. Now you can actually choose which bezel you want when you finalize the order. I went for the correct one, of course. Matte black, stainless steel, PVD coated, brushed with full minute markings. 120 clicks, unidirectional, spotless. Absolutely spotless bezel. I like the way it's made, the way it sounds, the way it works. There is zero backplay, perfect alignment. There is literally nothing I would change about the bezel. And I think it just works perfectly in regards to the overall design of the watch. The dial is a definition of legibility. And it is probably the most legible watch I currently own. Everything on the dial is printed, with large rectangle hour markers, with longer ones at 3 and 9, different shaped one at 12 for immediate orientation, and smaller cutout at 6 for color match date window. Which is also one of the things you can choose, whether or not you want a color match date window. I have no idea why you wouldn't want a color match date window, unless you're psycho. The printed minute track is perfectly aligned with the printed minute markers on the bezel. And there are these little orange dots behind the hour markers. The Helm logo at 12, divers 300 meters and automatic in capitals at 6. The logo and the text are printed in a dark gray.
Very, very dark gray.
And a little bit embossed. So it is visible at most scenarios despite being dark gray on a black dial. But it makes it incredibly low-key, sophisticated, unintrusive. I dig that. And just look at the handset. Very chunky, very simple hour hand. Very chunky and bit less simple minute hand, with this middle finger shape at the top. Yeah, once you see it, it feels like that watch is so badass that it's flipping you off all the time. And then we have the orange second hand with a lollipop. And the orange on the second hand beautifully works with the orange dots behind the hour markers on this otherwise monochromatic beast. It is all covered with a flat sapphire crystal with an anti-reflective coating. Yeah, the idea behind the handset was probably borrowed from Zinn, but it doesn't feel like copy overall. It feels like it's here because it's the most legible thing they could think of. Nothing on this watch feels like an afterthought, like it's been done by an accident. It really feels like everything is here to make it more legible, easier to operate, or tougher. For instance, the bezel overhangs the case. It's really thick with incredible grip. You can operate it with motorbike gloves on. And the same goes for the crown. And the bracelet is so massive that you can probably pull your car away with it. And what is definitely not an accident is the lume. Everything is loomed. And more importantly, everything stays loomed throughout the night. It is currently the best lume on the watch I have. Yes, better than Kamas. Now back to the question, is it really worth it? Is it really worth 2 years, 7 months and 22 days of waiting? I'm not gonna lie, there was a lot of moments that I thought that I wasn't going to buy this watch. That I moved on, mostly because of 2 watches that I already have. My Citizen ProMaster Echo Drive. That in many ways is still my ultimate no-nonsense watch, mainly because I trust the movement more. And my other 300-meter microbrand diver, $4 Cambrian, that until I got this was the king of crowns and bezels. I would argue that that one, although being still very tooly diver, is more versatile. But when you put it next to this, it kind of feels like teenage boy band Instagram model with dyed hair trying to pick up on a Mike Tyson. All I gotta say is just look at the clasps next to each other. But now that it's here and I have it finally, is it really worth the wait? God damn it is. Look, by no means it's perfect. It's super uncomfortable on the bracelet, it's really heavy. The bracelet is super easy to scratch, and only after a couple of weeks of wearing it looks like it's been around for a year. And it's so ridiculously overbuilt that for most people it's almost a nonsense. But it just screams testosterone. When you wear it, it makes you feel like a man with a goddamn manly watch. We're living in an increasingly feminine world. There is not a whole lot of things that would make us feel manly, so I'll take that. Plus, there is this entire experience of being on the waiting list, getting the watch with a handwritten note. There's almost like a strange sense of achievement when you finally get it and open it. And the fact that you get this very well made beast of a watch. That, yes, is a nonsense for most people. Is worth it. It is to me anyways. And yeah, that has been it, guys. As always, thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, I thank you for watching this far. And please feel free to drop a comment. Do you have any experience with this watch? Are you on the waiting list? Hang in there. My name is Karel and this is Watch. Till next time, cheers.